Commander stood on the bridge of the survey ship Stellar Wind, watching the blue planet slowly rotate on the main screen. His 4 eyes studied the readings with growing boredom. Another primitive world, another species barely worth the Council's time. "What do the scans show?" he asked his science officer, a tall creature with green skin and too many arms. "Standard Class C civilization, Commander," the officer replied, checking his instruments. "They call themselves humans. They have basic nuclear technology, primitive computers, and laughably slow space travel. Their fastest ships take months to reach their own moon." Nodded, his long neck swaying slightly. He had seen hundreds of worlds like this one. Young species always thought they were special, but they all followed the same patterns. First fire, then metal, then computers, then space travel. It was all very predictable. "Any signs of faster-than-light research?" he asked. "Barely," the science officer laughed. "They have some theories, but their mathematics are completely wrong. They think they need exotic matter and impossible amounts of energy. It will take them at least 500 years to figure out proper space folding." Typical said, "What about their society?" Another officer, this one with blue fur covering his entire body, spoke up. "Very unstable, Commander. They are divided into nearly 200 separate nations. They fight constantly over resources, territory, and ideas. Their average is only about 80 years, which explains their impatience and emotional problems." Made notes on his data pad. The Galactic Council would need a full report, though he doubted anyone would pay much attention to it. Earth was just another backward world in a galaxy full of them. "They do show some interesting qualities," the blue-furred officer continued. "They are very adaptable and surprisingly persistent. In just a few thousand years, they spread across their entire planet and learned to survive in every environment. They even put some of their people on their moon and built a small space station." "Amusing," said. "Anything else?" "They seem unusually violent for a species at this development level. They have weapons that could destroy their entire planet several times over. Most species develop such weapons much later in their evolution." Was not impressed. Many young species went through violent phases before they learned wisdom. The Council had seen it countless times. Once humans encountered superior civilizations, they would quickly learn their place in the galaxy. "Any signs they have detected our presence?" asked. "None at all," the science officer said confidently. "Our cloaking technology is far beyond anything they could possibly understand. We have been observing them for 6 months, and they show no awareness of our ships or monitoring stations." What none of the aliens knew was that their confidence was misplaced. In a hidden facility beneath the mountains of North America, Dr. Sarah studied readings on her computer screen. The quantum sensors her team had developed were picking up strange signals from empty space. "There," she said to her assistant, pointing at the screen. "Another gravitational anomaly. That makes 15 this month, all in Earth orbit." "Could be natural phenomena," her assistant suggested. 15 identical natural phenomena that move in perfect formation and maintain precise distances from each other. Doctor shook her head. "These are artificial. Someone is watching us." She had reported her findings to the world's governments months ago. The response had been swift and secret. Hidden factories around the world were already working around the clock, building technologies based on careful analysis of the alien signals. Humanity had always been good at copying and improving on other people's ideas. Back on the Stellar Wind, Commander finished his report. Earth would be classified as a primitive world with no current threat potential. The humans might be contacted in a few hundred years when they had advanced enough to be worth the Council's attention. "Set course for the Vega system," he ordered. "We have 3 more worlds to survey this month." As the alien ship prepared to leave, took one last look at the blue planet. The humans down there had no idea how small and insignificant they were. They thought they were the center of the universe, just like every other primitive species. He had seen the recordings of their entertainment programs, full of stories about humans defeating alien invaders and exploring the galaxy. Such imagination was common among young species. They always dreamed of being important, of being special. Reality would teach them otherwise when the time came. The stellar wind engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared from Earth's solar system. Behind them, they left several small monitoring stations, invisible to human technology but watching and recording everything. What the aliens did not realize was that the monitoring stations were also being monitored. Human scientists studied every transmission, every energy signature, every piece of alien technology they could detect. Earth's governments had made a simple decision. If aliens were watching them, then humans would learn everything they could about the Watchers. In secret laboratories around the world, the human minds worked to understand alien science. They made rapid progress, discovering principles of physics that Earth's scientists had only dreamed about. Faster-than-light travel was not impossible after all. It just required a completely different approach than humans had been trying. Commander would have been shocked to learn that within 5 years of his survey, human ships would be traveling between stars. But those ships would remain hidden, using the same cloaking technology that humans had reverse-engineered from alien signals. The Galactic Council had made their first mistake. They underestimated human intelligence and curiosity. They thought hiding their presence was enough, but humans were natural hunters and problem solvers. When they found evidence of something new, they did not stop until they understood it completely. As Earth's sun set over the hidden research facilities, scientists and engineers continued their work. They knew that someday the aliens would return. When that day came, humanity would be ready with a surprise that would shock the galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, and they did not even know it yet. 50 years had passed since Commander first discovered Earth. The blue planet still looked peaceful from space, but appearances could be deceiving. Senior counselor of the ancient hegemony reviewed the latest reports from the monitoring stations. His people had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years, and he had personally seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Humans were following the same predictable pattern as all the others. "They have made some progress," his aide reported, standing respectfully before the massive crystal throne. "They now have permanent colonies on 3 of their system's planets and several space stations. Their technology has improved, but they are still using primitive fusion drives for space travel." Nodded with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as expected. Young species always expanded through their home systems before attempting interstellar travel. It would be centuries before humans developed real faster-than-light capability. "Have they detected our monitoring stations yet?" he asked. "No, Master. Our technology remains far beyond their understanding. They continue to search for signs of alien life, but they find nothing." What the hegemony did not know was that humans had not only found the monitoring stations, but had been studying them for decades. Hidden deep in asteroid fields throughout the solar system, human research facilities worked day and night to understand alien technology. Dr. Sarah, now in her 70s but still leading Earth's most classified project, stood in the control room of Research Station Alpha. The station was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, completely invisible to alien scanners. "Status report," she said to her team. "The new Tokyo completed its maiden voyage yesterday," her deputy announced. 16 light-years to the Wolf 359 system and back in just 3 days. The aliens never detected it. Doctor smiled. Humanity now had 12 colonies in different star systems, all hidden using technology and improved from alien designs. The colonies were small but growing fast. More importantly, they were all connected by a secret communication network that allowed instant coordination across dozens of light years. "What about military production?" she asked. "All facilities are operating at full capacity. We now have over 200 warships hidden throughout human space. The new Berlin shipyards completed their first dreadnought last week." Doctor nodded. For 50 years, humanity had been playing a careful game. To the aliens watching Earth, humans appeared to be developing slowly and predictably. Earth's public space program was deliberately kept primitive, using old rocket technology and slow fusion drives. Meanwhile, humanity's real expansion remained completely hidden. Human colonies were established in systems that alien surveys had marked as uninteresting or unsuitable for life. Using advanced terraforming technology reverse-engineered from alien science, humans had learned to make almost any world habitable. The strategy was simple but effective: appear weak while growing strong in secret. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate about Earth was finally beginning. Counselor called the session to order, his ancient voice echoing through the vast hall. Representatives from 847 different species filled the chamber, some sitting, some floating, some hanging from the ceiling according to their biology. "We gather today to discuss the human question," announced. "Our observers report that the species has progressed sufficiently to warrant our attention." A representative from the Empire stood up, his golden skin shimmering under the chamber's lights. "Honored counselors, the humans have established several colonies within their home system. Their technology is primitive but functional. I believe they are ready for the standard incorporation process." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The standard incorporation process was the galaxy's way of bringing new species into civilized society. It had been used successfully thousands of times over the. A younger counselor from the Federation raised a concern. "Should we not offer them the choice of peaceful integration first? Their expansion suggests intelligence and determination." Laughter echoed through the chamber. Ancient species found such suggestions amusing. "Young friend," said with condescending kindness, "you have much to learn. Primitive species always resist change when given a choice. It is far more merciful to simply impose civilization upon them. They thank us later, once they understand the benefits." The counselor was not convinced, but their files show unusual adaptability and persistence. Perhaps they deserve special consideration. "Nonsense," declared a representative from the Silicon Collective, his metallic voice harsh. "They are carbon-based biologicals with of less than 100 years. Their short lives make them impulsive and emotionally unstable. They require firm guidance to prevent them from destroying themselves." More agreement from the assembled counselors. The decision was already made. The debate was just a formality. On Earth, Doctor watched the alien communication intercepts with grim satisfaction. Human intelligence had long ago broken the alien codes and was monitoring all Galactic Council transmissions. They knew exactly what was coming. "Signal all colonies," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2 preparations immediately." Throughout human space, hidden facilities activated emergency protocols. Warships that had been disguised as asteroids or space debris came online. Military installations that looked like mining operations revealed their true purpose. Research stations began broadcasting encrypted signals to every human world simultaneously. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. They had studied their enemies, learned their weaknesses, and built their strength in secret. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that could be easily conquered or controlled. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 days later, the official Galactic Council delegation arrived at Earth. 5 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their hulls gleaming with the authority of 1,000 conquered worlds. The lead ship opened communication channels to Earth's governments. The message was transmitted in perfect English, German, Chinese, and dozens of other human languages. The aliens had been listening for 50 years and knew humanity's languages better than most humans did. "People of Earth," the message began, "you are hereby invited to join the Galactic Council as a subject species. This is a great honor that few worlds receive. You will be granted the benefits of advanced technology, galactic citizenship, and protection under Council law." The message continued with the specific terms. Earth's governments would be dissolved, human populations would be relocated to designated worlds, genetic modifications would be made to improve human biology, and 40% of humanity would serve as workers in Council industries. "You have 7 days to signal your acceptance," the message concluded. "Resistance would be futile and is strongly discouraged. The Galactic Council has never failed to incorporate a species that has been chosen for membership." On Earth, world leaders gathered in emergency session. Their response was already prepared, but they needed to maintain the illusion of deliberation. To the aliens watching, humanity needed to appear overwhelmed and desperate. In reality, human fleets were already moving into position throughout the galaxy. The Great Deception was nearly complete, and soon the Galactic Council would learn the true meaning of human determination. The Galactic Council's ancient space station, Nexus Prime, had never hosted such a large gathering. Over 800 species sent representatives to witness what many considered a routine incorporation vote. The massive station, built from materials that could withstand the birth and death of stars, hummed with activity as delegates arrived from across the galaxy. Ambassador Sarah walked through the station's corridors with careful steps, appearing nervous and overwhelmed. She was the granddaughter of the scientist who had first detected alien presence 50 years earlier. At 35, she was considered young by human standards and practically an infant by galactic ones. The aliens she passed looked at her with mixtures of curiosity and condescension. Most had never seen a live human before. She was smaller than they expected, fragile-looking, with short brown hair and dark eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. "So primitive," she heard one delegate whisper to another as she passed. "Look how she walks. No grace, no elegance. These biologicals are all the same." Sarah kept her face neutral, but inside she was cataloging everything she saw. The station's layout, security measures, defensive capabilities, and most importantly, the attitudes of Earth's future enemies. Every word, every gesture, every display of alien arrogance was being recorded and transmitted back to human command centers across the galaxy. In the main council chamber, Senior Counselor took his place at the center of the massive amphitheater. His ancient crystalline body gleamed under the chamber's lights as thousands of alien delegates filled their assigned sections. Each species had earned their place through conquest, submission, or careful political maneuvering over thousands of years. "Honored delegates," his voice boomed through the chamber, "we convene today to vote on Resolution 847 Alpha, the forced incorporation of the human species of Sol 3, designated Earth." Sarah was escorted to a small platform at the chamber's center. She stood alone, surrounded by beings who could destroy her world with a simple command. But she showed no fear, only what appeared to be desperate hope. "The human representative will be permitted to speak," announced. "Though the outcome is not in doubt, it is traditional to allow primitive species a final statement." Sarah stepped forward and bowed slightly, following the protocols she had been taught. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "Honored counselors," she began, "I stand before you today representing 7 billion human beings who want nothing more than to live in peace among the stars. We are a young species, perhaps foolish in your eyes, but we have dreams of joining the galactic community as equals." Soft laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. Several delegates exchanged amused glances at her naivety. "We understand that we are primitive compared to your advanced civilizations," Sarah continued. "But we offer something that might have value, our unique perspective, our adaptability, and our willingness to learn. Surely there is room in this vast galaxy for one more voice." She paused, looking around the chamber with what appeared to be pleading eyes. "I ask you to consider granting Earth membership in the Galactic Council, not as subjects, but as partners. We have much to learn from you, but perhaps we might offer something in return." The laughter grew louder. Several delegates began making comments to their neighbors about human arrogance and ignorance. Counselor raised one crystalline appendage for silence. "Your words are touching, young human, but they demonstrate exactly why your species requires our guidance. You speak of equality between insects and giants, between children and adults. The Galactic Council has maintained order for 50,000 years precisely, because we do not make such foolish mistakes." He turned to address the full chamber. "The human species shows the typical signs of primitive thinking. They believe their brief existence grants them wisdom equal to civilizations that mastered the stars before their sun was born. This is exactly why forced incorporation is necessary." A delegate from the Mechanical Consortium stood up, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber. "I have reviewed the human files. Their technology is laughable, their society is chaotic, and they are so brief they cannot possibly accumulate meaningful wisdom. They are like mayflies demanding to be treated as equals to the eternal mountains." Agreement rumbled through the chamber. Ancient species nodded their approval, while younger civilizations remained respectfully silent. Sarah listened to every word with apparent dismay, but her hidden communication device was transmitting everything to human fleets now positioned throughout the galaxy. Each dismissive comment, each display of arrogance, each demonstration of the aliens' complete underestimation of humanity was valuable intelligence. The debate continued for hours, but it was merely a formality. Speaker after speaker rose to explain why humans needed to be forcibly civilized. They spoke of humanity's violent history, their primitive technology, and their emotional instability. Not one delegate suggested that humans might be capable of surprising them. "The evidence is overwhelming," declared a representative from the Aquatic Federation, her translated voice bubbling through the water-filled speaking tube. "Humans are clearly a species in need of guidance. Their own history shows constant warfare, environmental destruction, and social chaos. Left to their own devices, they will likely destroy themselves within a few centuries." "Indeed," agreed the Silicon Collective delegate. "Our analysis shows that human brains are designed for short-term survival thinking. They cannot comprehend the long-term consequences of their actions. This makes them dangerous both to themselves and to galactic stability." Sarah noticed that only a few younger species seemed uncomfortable with the proceedings. A delegate from the recently incorporated Tau looked troubled, and several representatives from worlds conquered within the last 1,000 years appeared uneasy. But they remained silent, unwilling to challenge the ancient powers that ruled the galaxy. Finally, Counselor called for the formal vote. "All those in favor of Resolution 847 Alpha, the forced incorporation of the human species, indicate your consent." The chamber filled with light as thousands of delegates activated their voting crystals. Sarah watched with apparent growing despair as vote after vote was cast against her people's freedom. "All those opposed to Resolution 847 Alpha, indicate your dissent." Only a handful of lights appeared, less than 1,500 votes out of nearly 3 million cast. "All those abstaining from Resolution 847 Alpha, indicate your neutrality." A dozen more lights appeared. "Announce the results with satisfaction." By a vote of 2,847,392 in favor, 1,247 opposed, and 12 abstentions, Resolution 847 Alpha passes overwhelmingly. The human species will be incorporated into the Galactic Council as subjects, with all rights and responsibilities that status entails. The chamber erupted in approving sounds from hundreds of different species. It was done. Another primitive world had been brought into the fold of galactic civilization. Sarah stood quietly for a moment, her head bowed as if in defeat. Then she looked up and smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. The expression was so unexpected that several nearby delegates stopped their conversations to stare. "Thank you, honored counselors," she said, her voice now carrying a different tone entirely. "Thank you for making this such a clear and unanimous decision. It makes our response so much simpler." Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Leaned forward on his throne, his ancient mind trying to process the human's strange reaction. "What do you mean, human?" he demanded. Sarah's smile grew wider. "I mean that you have just voted to declare war on humanity, and unlike every other species you have conquered, we have been preparing for this day for 50 years. She activated a hidden transmitter, and her final message was broadcast to every human world simultaneously. "The die is cast. Execute Order Phoenix." Across the galaxy, humanity's true strength finally revealed itself. The confusion in the Galactic Council chamber lasted exactly 17 seconds. Then the first emergency alarms began to sound. "Counselor," a technician shouted from the control station, his voice breaking with panic. "We are receiving reports from across the galaxy. Unknown ships are attacking Council facilities everywhere." On the main display screen, reports flooded in from dozens of star systems. Mining operations were under assault, communication relays were going dark, and trade routes were being systematically cut. The attacks were coordinated, precise, and devastatingly effective. Ambassador Sarah stood calmly in the center of the chaos, her small human form now seeming far less insignificant than before. "You wanted to know what humans could offer the galaxy," she said, her voice carrying clearly despite the alarms. "Now you're finding out." Counselor's crystalline form blazed with angry energy. "Impossible. Humans have no interstellar capability. Our monitoring stations would have detected any fleet movements." Sarah's smile turned cold. "Your monitoring stations have been feeding you false information for 47 years. We found them 6 months after you installed them, reverse-engineered their technology, and used them to show you exactly what we wanted you to see." The truth hit the ancient counselor like a physical blow. Everything the council thought they knew about humanity was a lie. "You see," Sarah continued, "humans learned something very important during our evolution on Earth. The best way to hunt dangerous prey is to let them think they're the hunters until it's too late to escape." More reports flooded the control center. The hegemony's main shipyard at base was under attack by ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. The Empire's trade fleet had been ambushed in the Vega corridor. Even the ancient fortress worlds that had never seen combat were reporting enemy contacts. What terrified the Council delegates most was how the human ships fought. Galactic warfare had followed the same patterns for. Fleets met in open space, exchanged long-range fire and fought until one side surrendered or retreated. There were rules, traditions, and honor codes that all civilized species followed. Humans ignored all of them. Instead of meeting enemy fleets in honorable combat, human ships struck at supply convoys and support vessels. They attacked communication networks and logistics hubs. They used stealth, deception, and misdirection in ways that shocked species accustomed to straightforward military confrontations. Admiral Torres commanded the human fleet attacking the hegemony shipyards. His ships had been hidden in the asteroid field for 3 months, disguised as mining equipment and space debris. When the attack order came, they revealed their true nature with devastating effect. "Target their construction facilities first," Torres ordered. "Weapons platforms second. Leave their residential areas alone." The human fleet moved with precision that amazed even experienced military observers. Each ship knew exactly what to attack and in what order. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation, no unnecessary destruction. It was surgical, efficient, and terrifyingly effective. But what disturbed alien commanders most was humanity's restraint. Human ships could have targeted civilian populations or cultural sites, but they focused exclusively on military and industrial targets. When alien crews abandoned their ships, humans made no attempt to capture or harm them. This was not the behavior of savage primitives. This was the calculated strategy of a species that understood warfare at a level the galaxy had never seen. In the Tau system, Captain Lisa Park commanded a small human squadron facing a much larger fleet. The aliens expected a conventional battle, but humans had different ideas. "Deploy the mirror drones," she ordered. Thousands of tiny devices scattered from the human ships, each one designed to reflect and redirect sensor signals. Within minutes, the fleet found themselves firing at phantom targets, while the real human ships attacked from unexpected directions. "How are they doing this?" the commander demanded, watching his sophisticated targeting systems fail completely. His science officer could only shake his head in confusion. "Their technology appears similar to ours, but they are using it in ways we never considered. They are making our own sensors work against us." This pattern repeated throughout the galaxy. Human forces used familiar technologies in unfamiliar ways, turning the aliens' greatest advantages into weaknesses. Energy shields designed to stop direct attacks were useless against weapons that curved around them. Sensors built to detect large fleet movements missed small, coordinated strike teams. Most importantly, humans fought as if every battle was connected to every other battle. While alien fleets operated independently, human forces across the galaxy moved as a single organism. When one human commander discovered a weakness in alien defenses, every other human force knew about it within minutes. Back on Nexus Prime, the council chamber had erupted into panic. Representatives who had been calmly voting to enslave humanity just hours before were now demanding immediate military action to save their own worlds. "Deploy the battle fleet," shouted the Silicon Collective delegate. "Crush these primitives before they can do more damage." "The battle fleet is already engaged," the technician replied. "They're fighting human forces in 6 different systems simultaneously." Counselors struggled to comprehend what was happening. For 50,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained order through superior technology and overwhelming force. No species had ever dared to challenge them directly, and certainly no primitive species had ever posed a serious threat. "How many human ships are there?" he demanded. The technician checked his reports with growing alarm. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be using advanced cloaking technology. Our estimates range from hundreds to thousands of vessels." "That's impossible," another delegate protested. "Humans have no industrial base capable of building such a fleet." Sarah laughed, a sound that somehow seemed more threatening than any alien war cry. "You spent 50 years watching Earth while we built 12 colonies in systems you marked as unsuitable for life. We've been mass-producing warships in the Wolf 359 system alone for 20 years." The terrible truth began to dawn on the assembled delegates. Humanity had not just hidden their expansion, they had deliberately chosen worlds the Council considered worthless. While aliens fought over rich, habitable planets, humans had learned to thrive on barren rocks and gas giants. "You see," Sarah explained, "that's the difference between a young species and an ancient one. You became comfortable with your superiority and stopped innovating. We never had the luxury of comfort, so we never stopped adapting." Reports continued flooding in from across the galaxy. Human forces were demonstrating capabilities that should have taken centuries to develop. They had faster-than-light communication that allowed instant coordination across thousands of light years. Their ships used power sources that alien scientists couldn't identify. Most disturbing of all, They seemed to anticipate alien responses before the aliens made them. The reason was simple but devastating. Humans had been studying galactic military doctrine for 50 years. They knew how every council species fought, what tactics they preferred, and what weaknesses they tried to hide. The galaxy's defenders were fighting an enemy who knew their every move before they made it. As the hours passed, the scope of humanity's deception became clear. They had not just built a hidden fleet, they had created an entire shadow civilization that existed parallel to the galactic community. They had colonies, industries, and military forces that had been growing in secret while the Council remained completely unaware. More troubling was the evidence that humans had been recruiting allies among recently conquered species. Worlds that had been forcibly incorporated into the Council were now declaring independence and joining the human cause. The galaxy's subjects, still bitter about their own subjugation, saw humanity as liberators rather than invaders. By the end of the first day, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. The Galactic Council's forces were scattered, confused, and demoralized. Human fleets controlled key strategic positions throughout known space, and more alien worlds were surrendering every hour. Standing in the chaos of the council chamber, Ambassador Sarah delivered one final message to the galaxy's former rulers. "You voted to make us your subjects," she said, her words broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. "We vote to make you irrelevant." 2 years after the vote that sealed their fate, the remnants of the Galactic Council held their final emergency session. The once mighty chamber on Nexus Prime was mostly empty now. Of the 847 species that had originally voted to enslave humanity, only 146 delegates remained. Counselor sat alone on his crystal throne, his ancient form dimmed with defeat. Around him, the few surviving representatives of the galaxy's former rulers huddled in small groups, their voices hushed with fear and desperation. The massive display screens that once showed a galaxy under council control now painted a very different picture. Green zones marked territories under human protection, encompassing nearly 60% of known space. Yellow areas indicated neutral worlds that had chosen independence. Red zones marked the shrinking pockets of resistance still loyal to the old order. "Status report," commanded, his voice lacking its former authority. Admiral of the Hegemony military stood to deliver the grim news. His silver uniform, once a symbol of galactic power, now seemed faded and worn. "Honored Counselor, our remaining forces control only 43 star systems. Human fleets have us surrounded in a sphere roughly 12 light-years in diameter." The number was staggering. At the height of their power, the Council had ruled over 10,000 systems. Now they were trapped in a space smaller than humanity's original solar system. "What about our allies?" asked, though he already knew the answer. "The Empire surrendered last month and joined the human Commonwealth," Admiral replied. "The Silicon Collective voted to dissolve themselves rather than face further human attacks. The Mechanical Consortium has gone completely silent. We believe they chose mass deactivation." Each piece of news was another nail in the Council's coffin. Species that had ruled the galaxy were either dead, surrendered, or had simply given up entirely. "How is this possible?" whispered a delegate from the crystal rings, her harmonic voice filled with confusion. "We had 50,000 years of experience. We controlled the most advanced technology in the galaxy. How could primitives defeat us so completely?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. How had beings who lived less than a century outmaneuvered civilizations that had existed since before their star was born? "Because we forgot what it means to struggle," said quietly. "We became administrators of an empire built by our ancestors. The humans are still builders, still fighters, still hunters." On the bridge of the battleship Terra Prime, Fleet Admiral Sarah watched the final approach to Nexus Prime. She was older now, her hair gray with the stress of 2 years of constant warfare, but her eyes still held the same determination that had faced down the Council's arrogance. "All ships maintain formation," she ordered. "Remember, we are here to accept surrender, not to gloat." The human fleet that surrounded Nexus Prime was the largest military force in galactic history. 5,000 ships from across human space, including vessels crewed by dozens of former Council species who had joined the Commonwealth. The fleet was so vast that it took nearly an hour for the last ships to drop out of faster-than-light travel. But despite their overwhelming advantage, the humans approached with careful respect. There were no threats, no demands for unconditional surrender, no displays of cruel victory. They simply surrounded the station and waited. Inside the council chamber, a communication request appeared on the main screen. The source was identified as Ambassador Sarah, now serving as humanity's official representative to all galactic governments. "We will hear what the humans have to say," decided. What choice did they have? Sarah's image appeared on the screen, and she looked exactly as she had 2 years earlier when she stood alone in this chamber. The same calm expression, the same steady voice, but now she spoke from a position of absolute power. "Honored counselors," she began, using the same respectful tone she had maintained even during their darkest moments. "I stand before you today representing the Terran Commonwealth and our 312 member species. We are here to offer you a choice." The irony was not lost on anyone in the chamber. 2 years ago, the Council had offered humanity no choice at all. Now the humans were extending mercy to their former oppressors. "You may surrender unconditionally and accept incorporation into the Commonwealth as equal members," Sarah continued. "Your species will be granted full citizenship rights, representation in our government, and protection under our laws. No reprisals will be taken for past actions." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. The surviving council members had expected demands for revenge, punishment for their crimes, or at best slavery under new masters. Instead, humans were offering equality. "Alternatively," Sarah said, "you may choose exile to a distant galaxy where you can rebuild your civilization without interference. We will provide transportation and basic supplies to ensure your survival." The offer was unprecedented in galactic history. Never before had a conquering force offered their defeated enemies such generous terms. "Why?" asked, speaking directly to the screen. "Why offer mercy to those who would have enslaved your entire species?" Sarah was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because that is what makes us different from you, counselor. You ruled through fear and force, believing that might makes right. We believe that strength should be used to protect, not to dominate." She paused, looking directly at the ancient being who had dismissed humanity as primitive insects just 2 years before. "Besides, we learned something important during our evolution. The best way to ensure peace is to make your former enemies into allies, not slaves." The chamber fell silent as the surviving delegates considered their options. After 50,000 years of ruling the galaxy, they were being offered a chance to start over as equals in a new order based on cooperation rather than domination. One by one, the delegates began to cast their votes. The process took hours, with much debate and soul-searching. Some species chose exile, unable to accept serving under former subjects, but most chose to join the Commonwealth, swayed by humanity's unexpected mercy and the promise of a better future. When the final vote was tallied, Counselor stood slowly from his throne. His crystalline form had lost its angry glow and now shimmered with something that might have been hope. "The Galactic Council hereby dissolves itself," he announced formally. "By majority vote, we accept incorporation into the Terran Commonwealth as equal members." The chamber erupted not with the sounds of celebration or grief, but with something stranger, relief. After 2 years of desperate warfare, the galaxy finally had peace. 3 months later, Ambassador Sarah stood in the same chamber, now converted into the first assembly hall of the Commonwealth Senate. Representatives from over 400 species filled the seats that had once held only the galaxy's elite. Former slaves sat beside their former masters, all equal under the new government. The old council's motto, carved in stone above the speaker's platform, had been replaced with new words in simple human script. Never underestimate a species that evolved to be Earth's dominant predator. But below that, in smaller letters, humanity had added a second motto that better reflected their true nature. Strength in diversity, unity in purpose, mercy in victory. Now serving as the Commonwealth's Minister of Historical Archives, approached Sarah after the session ended. His ancient form moved slowly but with dignity. "I have a question, Ambassador," he said. "Why did you really spare us? Your species had every right to seek revenge for our arrogance." Sarah considered the question carefully. "Because revenge is a luxury we couldn't afford, Minister. We need every intelligent species working together if we're going to face the real challenges ahead." "Real challenges?" was confused. Sarah smiled and gestured toward the chamber's main display, which showed a star map of the local galactic group. "The galaxy is a big place, Minister, and we're not the only intelligent life in it. There are threats out there that make our little war look like a family disagreement." She paused, looking out at the vast expanse of space beyond their local spiral arm. "Besides, we learned something important from studying your history. Empires built on fear and domination always fall eventually. We want to build something that will last." As night fell over Nexus Prime, now renamed Unity Station, the former enemies worked together to plan their shared future. The galaxy that had been ruled by fear for 50,000 years was finally learning what it meant to be governed by hope. The vote that was meant to be the Council's final judgment on humanity had indeed been their last. But it was also the first vote of a new age, one where strength was measured not by the ability to conquer, but by the wisdom to show mercy and the courage to offer trust. In the end, the Galactic Council had been right about one thing. Their vote had changed the galaxy forever. They just hadn't expected to survive their mistake, much less benefit from it. The hunters from Earth had become the guardians of the galaxy, and the galaxy was better for it.